I don't think occupying against town ordinances in one space is any different than occupying against town ordinances in another space. Personally, I'm tired of camping places where I can't even have a fire, and that brings home to me how much people who are homeless in this area could be taking care of themselves and could have a hot drink at night, but we have ordinances that keep them from having fires. We have ordinances that keep them from putting tents up. And we have ordinances that keep them from sleeping in abandoned buildings, and we don't have enough services to get them into homes. So I don't want to separate this from Yates anymore. I don't want to say like, oh, well, Yates was bad and this was good. I want to say the town is not responding to the voice that we are bringing forward of what isn't working. And furthermore, I do think this is retaliatory, and I think the pressure that we have put on the town and the town manager over Yates, over their police overreaction, over the fact they responded to a misdemeanor trespassing with assault rifles, and we have made them look bad nationally. And that was Occupy Chapel Hill. We consist on marches to town council to object to that. So I think this is retaliatory, and I think they just went, oh my God, we can get rid of them. I don't want to be gotten rid of, and I will not be gotten rid of, even if it means not being part of the Occupy movement.
Christina, do you?
Just one thing in the language of his letter that really jumped out to me was where he said something like, I'm planning to enforce all of these ordinances from now on to the extent possible. Well, we've seen the extent possible. So what is he threatening us with?
Right.
Like, that's like, what about the extent necessary to maintain basic order or whatever? No, the extent possible. That's what jumped out at me.
All right, Becca and then
I'm just wondering what everyone thinks if this is a response to William's tent being up there and getting rid of him, because they have no other way of doing it without writing a law at this point. And so, William and I guess Colin is there now too. I'm just thinking maybe this is trying to get them out of there as well, not just keeping us from going back.
So echo totally what everyone has said so far. I'm so excited that we're on such similar pages. Just a couple of things to add. Building off what other people have said, I'm not super familiar with the structure of town government, but according to this email, it sounds like there's one person who, is certainly not elected or anything, who gets to decide what laws are enforced, where, when, against whom, and has apparently individual discretion to determine when that does and doesn't happen, and also apparently has discretion to determine that it's totally okay when, assault rifles are used in response to misdemeanor trespass. It's just like...
Even if it's dishonestly justified.
Who is this guy? Really? Like, fuck you! And now, so that's not what I want in the press release. But in terms of a press release, which I think is a good idea, I give my twinkles to that. Other folks have addressed important things to add. Another thing to mention is that he says, since Occupy Chapel Hill has vacated the Peace and Justice Plaza, and it seemed pretty clear from the media stuff that happened on Tuesday the 10th that Occupy Chapel Hill will continue having general assemblies 3 times a week at the Peace and Justice Plaza, permission or not, and will also continue having events, possibly ongoing tabling, other things like that. And we're not going to be intimidated. We're not going to let this bureaucrat tell us that we can't do that when we have a clear mandate from ourselves and our will, from the massive support that we've garnered in the town and whatnot, to continue. So correcting that bit of misinformation seems important. And also just challenging whatever role he has been appointed by, whoever he's been appointed by, to determine selective, potentially lethal enforcement of whatever laws he sees fit. And so again, stepping back from the press release, the lesson that I draw from this is we're not protected by following the law or not. We're protected by our power of coming together and by our relationships in this community. And so however we move forward as Occupy Chapel Hill, whatever actions we decide to take collectively or individually, let's just remember that following the law is not what's going to keep us safe or not. It's a consideration to weigh for sure, but what's going to keep us safe is continuing to build this movement, continuing to build our relationships with each other.
Okay, to build on that, and what Becca was saying, yes, I think it's entirely possible that who Stancil is talking about right now is William, and anybody else can't bring out him. But building up what Nick was saying about our safety and our ability to have free speech, freedom of assembly, any of these things that are rights, not rights in the sense of what is coded into law, but rights in the sense of what we deserve as living creatures. To the extent to which we draw lines between the legitimate and illegitimate occupiers, whether that's Yates or William, I think that's the extent to which we weaken ourselves. We weren't any more legitimate or legal, it turns out, occupying Peace and Justice Plaza before than William is now, than the people in the Yates building. But again, building off what Nick was saying, in order to have a meaningful solidarity that can actually make it possible for people to meet their needs, we do need to connect with the general public. This is an opportunity. An example of how we could do this would be to have a solidarity demonstration at Peace and Justice Plaza, where we've been over and over already. Emphasize, just to emphasize the talking points that have come up already in this discussion. That our right to be together and our power to come together is based in our connections in the community. And also emphasizing that, for example, if William is dragged off in handcuffs, or other people are targeted for being homeless in this town, that we have their backs as well too. We would have to promote this in such a way that there would be a large number of people there, and that it would be a show of community power, not 5 people with signs. But that's an example of something we could do to try to create a disincentive for them to, first they came for William, first they came for Yates, then they came for William, and I didn't stand up because I wasn't William, and then they came for Occupy Chapel Hill when the General Assemblies of us were just 15 people, and they felt like they could clear us out too, which is what they would do. It would be more convenient for them not to have to deal with us.
Yeah, I've only been back in Chapel Hill for a little less than 2 years. When I first came back, I got involved in the Sanitation 2 case right away. And those of you who know it, 2 black sanitation workers for the Public Works in Chapel Hill, and I went to all the hearings and followed everything, and then the case sort of disappeared. And it disappeared because of under the wand of Roger Stancil. And I still didn't understand it, but Al McSorley, Al, sort of straightened me out on that thing, and we all need to understand how town government works, I think, and the fact that Stancil does have too much power. And I think that he has a history of this kind of behavior. To me, what he did to the Sanitation 2 is institutional racism. I mean, he openly discriminated against those guys. The fact that a neighbor complained about them is secondary. They were trying to form a union. They were trying to unionize public works workers. So I think that Stancil's behavior doesn't begin and end with Yates and Peace and Justice Plaza. It goes back. So I don't know exactly how to go about that except to ask for advice. And I would love Al to, I realize that Al is the official sort of attorney and everything, but he could advise us and give us that history, which might extend the context of Stancil's behavior,
Sonia?
I just wanted to mention, following up with what Brian was saying, if you wanted to bring in a lot of other groups to a solidarity march, I've got this awesome list of 911-2NC.com, democracyforNC.com, DuranGreenDogs.com. Anyway, a whole, that we can pull in.
Sorry, even students for Democratic Society would be interested in that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry to cut you off.
So, does anybody actually know what the town manager, and can explain to me or probably other people, what exactly a town manager is, what they do?
How he gets to his job.
Yeah, because I honestly,
I'm really
you do want to find it out?
I worked with the town. I was operations manager for the bus system for 5 years. And the town manager is essentially the CEO. Now you have the board of directors, which is the mayor and the council. And they say, you're doing a good job or you're doing a bad job, and they make the overall policy. And he's there to implement it. He's there to see that the people who make sure that the trash gets picked up, the police officers, the guys who clean the streets, all of them do their job. And he's like the guy in charge. That's the way it's structured.
Just to speak a bit to this question of enforcing which laws, and I do find it interesting that there is some choice or opportunity for when and what to enforce, as is being evidenced with this letter. But by the same token, I think it's a valuable point that one made as to Yates. There was a choice in the degree of force to be applied there too. So at some level, it becomes enforcing laws for the sake of the laws themselves, and that is approximating fascism, really. And so I think we have a good point here to put this into question. I really value the point made that it's a lot about the relationships we have, and it's true, like someone alone at the Peace of Justice Plaza may not be heeded as much as a larger group. So I don't know if they're wanting us to reoccupy the plaza. Is it like a challenge for it?
Do we have to make our point again?
Tate, you got it?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I know you answered the question about like how the structure goes, but I'm just wondering, how does he get his job? Like, what does he have? Like, you guys have said he's not elected. I'm just wondering.
In Carver, we're in the middle of hiring a town manager as we speak, and so it's a process. It's one of the few staff people that the Board of Aldermen and the mayor actually hire. Everyone else is hired by the town manager. He's the one who oversees and is full time.
He has obviously a lot of power.
I have a question to that specifically. So the town council hires their boss?
No, it should be the other way. I mean, the town council can fire the manager.
But he is in charge of them?
The board of directors CEO analogy.
So what Stansel is saying is they have these laws on the books, and he's basically putting the ball on the council's court, saying if you really want us not to enforce this, then change the law. But I'm going to do what my job is, which is to apply and enforce, at my discretion. Essentially, is what is happening.
Okay.
And so, if the town finds this to be a problem, then they should change the law. But now there's a real question as to it's the town's responsibility. If they find this to be a problem that is enforcing it, they can change the law. And that's the question.
Okay.
2 points. One, what Brian mentioned about seeing small-scale fascism for many reasons. I think this is just a smaller scale of what we're seeing going on nationally. They're out to get us. They want to stop us. They don't like us. And this is just the local force that we're facing from this councilman. And after hearing some more details onto how the process works, I think not only should we respond to the councilman himself, but as Sandy said, this is an opportunity for us to address the council people and say, these are the laws you have. You are the ones that have the power to put it on your agenda and talk about it and change it. So perhaps going down that road.
It's a forward-thinking future.
Yeah.
Lyle?
Becca, did you cut anything?
I'm gonna, I can't be here forever. Tell me if I'm rushing things, but I'm gonna try to put a concrete proposal out there, so we can at least have something to chew on. Okay, so we're talking about making a press release, right, to engage with this issue, as I said earlier, I think the press release could clarify that we haven't had a positive relationship with Stanzel. And also, it might be hard to consensus about the exact language, but another thing I think that we could do, if we want, is to call for a demonstration in favor of, the freedom to assemble publicly. And make it clear that that is tied into any kind of targeting of people who assemble, whether that, I don't know again, I don't know the language, but, don't mess with the homeless people who are in tents, don't mess with, nomadic occupy. Don't create a space, don't create a town in which people can't express themselves or come together communally. We'd have to figure this out. I would want, in the proposal, I would want to say that we should do this soon enough that it's experienced as a reaction to this. We could announce this in the press release if we wanted to, so that we aren't just making a statement of disapproval, but doing something that can bring people together. We should call for it far enough out, that we have time to organize well for it and bring in all the people that Sonia mentioned. Everybody who has a stake in the freedom to assemble publicly. This is an opportunity. Stanzel is generously giving us an opportunity to make connections with everybody else who's invested in public discourse and in freedom, essentially. And we shouldn't miss the opportunity.
At the risk of adding something that sounds a little bit alienating and academic, there's one word to extend an awareness that I really want to include in this press release. And I think that it's important that this not only connects to what's happening around the United States, but this relates directly to the international issues that the Occupy movement internationally has been engaging with, and that word is privatization. And specifically that our elected officials all around the world are ceding their power to CEO models of management. And this is a tiny instance. Stanzel doesn't fucking matter. Stanzel is nobody. However, Stanzel here's another alienating word that doesn't need to be included. He's a synecdoche. He is a small, fractal, tiny representation of...
Is he from New York, though?
He's a synecdoche. He is a tiny representation of a global problem that we are seeing. That the World Bank is a problem like Stanzel is a problem. And so I think including the word privatization and how privatization is overrunning democracy is something that needs to be in here to show that we aren't just bitching about our right to sleep in tents, or even William or the homeless people's right to be in public, but we are bitching about something that is a global issue that the Occupy movement has arisen to confront.
Yes.
So, I guess as facilitator, Brian has made a formal proposal.
Albeit a vague one, sorry.
That's all right. Do we want to first narrow down the proposal to what, let's make a proposal maybe that we're going to release a press release tonight or tomorrow morning. I believe that was the idea. And then we need to, we want to address each issue in this ordinance and the reply individually, each line say you said this in your ordinance and we maybe not. Okay. So I guess we need to narrow down what we're going to do for the proposal and what we're going to do for the press release into a proposal. But just because you made a formal proposal, I feel like we should decide on that.
I think there's been a lot of points presented as to what people wanted in the proposal that were stated explicitly as such or represented as such. So I'd like to just, if we could, go back through those and just compile a list of the things that we want to include with those.
I think it's
It's a point of information.
I'm sorry. I'm really sorry that I was late. and Nick didn't know either, so I figured I'm not just asking for me. What is the provenance of this information? Like, is it something that, I mean, like, what are we, like, jumping off from? Was this letter about the law, I'm sorry, I didn't read the email stuff. Is it semi-public, or?
Well, it's the I guess all email from the town is public.
Okay.
And Becca found it. I don't know where you found it.
Somebody posted it on our Facebook.
Yeah, it was Alex.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, Alex.
So it's not like it's like something.
No, anybody can go in and read the emails.
Sorry.
Yeah.
That was even better.
I'm not that good.
Yeah. Thanks, sorry.
Okay, so I feel like we need. So I guess line by line, and then we'll decide as a group whether we want to include that. Or is that?
Do we plan on
I
writing
think
press release as a GA, or do we want to break out a smaller group?
that's what I was thinking. Maybe we should have an ad hoc group for the press release and have like a couple people do it, send it out, and then we can approve it at a GA.
Or, I just want to comment on what Becca said. If we want to get this thing out in the next news cycle, which means publication in the Chapel Hill News on Sunday, then we probably need to get it out early tomorrow morning. Because they go to press, I think, I don't know what time, but Saturday probably sometime. So tonight or tomorrow morning, I think.
This is the ad hoc working group
Yeah.
for the press release, more or less.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to do what David suggested and at least go through the points and.
Try to do the simplest version of each, because this is always a headache. You know, just like the lowest common denominator.
Okay, so in that case.
Got it. Oh, person.
Yes, Bert, sorry. I didn't know this.
I'm just wondering if we need to enumerate things, and that it might be more useful to put together a response that says, Occupy Chapel Hill is going to respond to the town manager's memo to the council, and we're going to do it in full, and we're going to list our grievances because we do not agree with it, and just make a blanket statement that we think it's an outrageous or some word that expresses how bad it is, but take the time to do some word crafting on this thing, because I don't think putting it together, a few people putting it together in a few hours is a good idea. That's just my opinion. I think there are a lot of people who would like to have some input. I know I want to have input. I want to be able to read it and say, that sounds like what I'd like to see. And I'm assuming other people feel the same way. And if we try to rush it and do it tonight, I think we can alienate people who are here. I don't want to do that, because you're all here because we believe this is a screwed up mess.
How about a definition of the word dialogue? Can we put that? Can we just maybe put that out as a definition of the word dialogue?
Do the people that are at Freedom and Justice Plaza right now know about this? Because, I mean, in theory, they could be created at any moment.
I mean, I haven't told William.
Not specifically regarding this.
I was just wondering, in regards to that statement, if we couldn't make some sort of, I mean, acknowledging that we're doing this as an ad hoc, working group, basically say that the emergency OCHCGA assembled at, whatever, the Carrboro Town Hall, decided to release this press statement. There will be a full press statement to follow from OCHCGA at Peace and Justice Plaza, and drive home the fact that it is OCHCGA at Peace and Justice Plaza.
Yes. Yes.
Just a point of information, the date on this memorandum is January 23rd, 2012.
What?
3 days from now.
We don't beat the memo.
So-
I think that means that's when they want to talk about it.
That's Monday.
I think
that's
that's when it will be addressed.
So the town council has read this, though.
Well, it's been emailed to them, but they haven't discussed it within themselves. Yeah.
Sorry.
Is this a town council meeting agenda item?
It's to the mayor and the town council.
I think it is, because there was another another part that I don't think is here that says it is on the agenda for Monday, I think.
Is this on our Facebook page?
Yeah.
Yes.
To work off what Bert's saying, there are still things that we need to consent or not consent upon tonight. For example, if we do want to call for a demonstration of some kind, we need to consent on that ASAP, I imagine. We could consent on calling for a demonstration at which we will present a full...
Yes.
a full
Yeah.
critique of this. And that could be more like the event a week ago Tuesday, at which a lot of the people can speak. So we can show the full multiplicity of our voices. But in the meantime, we would at least need to make it clear what, to continue amending my proposal, we would at least need to make it clear what the demonstration was about, who we were inviting, and we could use this as an opportunity to publicize that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Liz?
It's a little out of off topic now, but I just wanted to make a point of information that if memory from my online reading today serves me correctly, this would be an agenda item at the town council meeting that is after the secret meeting they have scheduled to discuss the Yates incident.
Monday.
It's at 5
You didn't see, you
o'clock
missed that one. Yeah.
What?
They're meeting with the lawyer privately.
They're having a meeting with the town attorney in a closed session on Monday at 5 before the town council meeting. Which Direct Action Working Group has planned to be at the town council meeting with signs that say we do not forget and tape over our mouths. But we could revisit all
We maybe
that.
need to revisit that after this thing.
We can always just do that and then rip the tape off and then make a lot of noise.
I don't see this on the agenda. I'm looking at the 23rd on the website, unless I'm skimming over it.
It'll be under petitions probably by the town manager. It's probably not listed. They'll ask for petitions. That's also when the CPAC's request for attorney, I think, is coming.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So, since you absolutely can't get a permit for Peace and Justice Plaza on a Sunday ever, I'd say demonstration on Sunday. Not this Sunday, but Sunday a week from now, so we have time to invite people.
And every Sunday. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Sorry, I have to do that. Do you do that too?
Is that point of information yet? Okay, do that and then Bert.
Answer your question about the agenda. It says in the conclusion, in the last sentence, if the town council needs additional information, has a different view, or desires to review or possibly amend any of the existing regulations, we will add an item to the future agenda so that we can provide further guidance.
So that sounds just like
So, I mean, this email is like asking them to add an item. So,
if they don't agree with it. Basically, I'm going to do this. If you don't like it, say.
Yeah, right. Make an agenda.
Well, I mean, the first line says that, the purpose of the report is to explain the various ordinances, policies, and procedures in place to regulate the use of public spaces and our plans for enforcement of these regulations. So they're not asking the town council for anything. They're just giving them information.
This is what we're going to do if you don't like it.
Yeah.
Bert?
Right now?
I really like what Brian said about having a demonstration. I like what Maria said about having it next Sunday, not this Sunday, because I really think if we're going to be there, we need to be there in force. We don't need to just spring something out there that's going to only draw 150 people. We need to pack the plaza.
Yeah. Yes.
The other point I would like to make is, and I know some people probably don't like this tack, but I think we should say we don't agree with what he's saying. His in view of how to enforce and what laws to enforce is totally askew with what is right for a democratic society, and that we are going to leave it in the hands of the town council to direct him how to act. And that gives them a chance to do the right thing. Now, there are some people on that council who are going to stand up for Occupy. Now, they may not be in the majority, but at least give them a chance and say, we're putting it in your court. It's your job. Tell this guy to rein him in. And then, if they don't do it, then we just pull out all the stuff. Now, I don't know, Sandy, you're on the Alderman, so I just guess I think some ways it just shows that we're willing to work with the council. They've worked with us. They did some good things for us. So,
Bye, Kevin.
Thanks for coming.
Bye, Lana.
Thanks for the time.
Love you.
I have to disagree with you because I personally don't feel like empowering the town council officers.
Thanks, Vince.
There's a way to bridge these positions, perhaps. I think if we word this as a statement of our intention and an invitation for town council, that if the town council would like to demonstrate that they take free speech seriously in Chapel Hill, they have the opportunity to denounce what Stancil's doing. And that we are going to do what we can to show the community's support for this group and their opposition to Stancil's action, and we encourage and invite, and in fact demand that the town council shows that they are with us, rather than showing us that we are necessarily with them.
I know I sort of got at this a few minutes ago, but I really would like us to understand how town government works. And I also want to reemphasize this point about legacy and history. I mean, you know, if we do this big thing a week from Sunday, this is part of a thing that dates back to the 1960s. And the names of those people are commemorated there. And they were stepping up in times when it was a lot more dangerous and risky than we are now. We are well-intentioned and righteous, but sort of puppies, you know, in terms of, and I don't say that in a demeaning way, but just in terms of the long history of civil action in Chapel Hill. So, Al McSorley is the guy. I mean, he knows that history. He has prosecuted the town before, and I just want to put that on the table that we consider consulting with Al, because he can give us a broad perspective. So,
What's Al's last name?
McSorley.
We have multiple points of information.
The arrestees group is meeting with Al and everybody an hour before the town council meeting. So, yeah.
So, but if people want to weigh in on that, just a suggestion.
Well, if we have a demo, we can invite them to speak also. Right? I mean, we can have it'll be an open forum. That's to clarify my proposal.
I'm confused about what we're consulting with Al on, because what exactly are we consulting? I mean, I like Al, but what are we, like, taking up his time to consult with him about? Exactly.
Perspective and history of bad behavior by the town and people stepping up in response.
Okay, I think it would be great to have him speak then, but I don't think we need to consult with him as much as invite him to
If
speak.
that's
I mean, I've actually spoken with Al on this myself, but yeah.
Diane, did you?
Oh, I just don't know who that is, so I'm sorry. That was, yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a point of distinction between the gate law that they were enforcing and the law that they're talking about enforcing now. One way that town council was, or I think the mayor himself, was quick to point out that this is a state law that they had no control over, and the difference is that this other law that they're talking about, they do have control over, and they can change. But just to have that awareness, and the degree of enforceability still is at their discretion.
So that's something.
Is that point of information or?
Yeah, a point of information. So maybe consider.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So, do we have multiple points of information? Yeah. So we had multiple points of information. 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 So we had multiple points
I'll wait.
All right, then Nick.
Inform us of your opinion.
I'd like to make a process suggestion. Since there's a lot of different ideas, it sounds like, about how to move forward strategically, about what to include in the press release, about all those sorts of things, I'd like to suggest that first we make a consensus decision about the demonstration with the date proposed, any revisions, get that done and out of the way, and then I like the idea that different folks have kind of built on of making a sort of concise press statement with a couple of key points, and then using the subsequent week to flesh those out so that we can articulate them very clearly at the demo. So I'd like to do, after we've decided on the demo, to do a brief kind of like temperature check on some of the key elements.
Do you think that we that we should give the town council and the mayor the opportunity, give them the opportunity to mess up? I do not believe. I don't have much faith that they're actually going to do it. But that they're actually going to do anything to rein this in. But I think it's almost a little bit of maybe covering our butts a little bit. It kind of helps it to, okay, why are you doing this? Because they are not willing to. Why are you out here demonstrating? Because they are not willing to and protect our constitutionally guaranteed rights.
I guess I would like to just get on to what you were saying. So consensus on the demonstration. Would somebody like to summarize the demonstration and where it's going to be, when it's going to be, what it's going to be?
I'll propose it.
Sure.
I would like to propose a demonstration 1 week from Sunday at Peace and Justice Plaza that will be a forum for forwarding these specific issues and connecting them to larger issues of free speech here and perhaps more broadly. And we will invite all interested groups, meaning we will invite other social justice groups, we will invite any group we think has a stake in protecting free speech. We are going to invite to be there and fill the plaza with so many more than 15 bodies that they will be shocked at what we are able to do.
So as a proposal, we need consensus. So we vote or temperature check on the proposal. Okay, and then we go to consensus. Right. Yes.
I'm into the proposal. I just want to say there's so many more reasons than just free speech. That's not the center of gravity for me, but I'm totally comfortable with the proposal. That said, let's go.
Okay, consensus on the demonstration.
Sorry, could I
Oh yes, point of information.
For those of you who are facing the trial, isn't the 30th, which would be the next day, your trial? Is there any suggestion we want to link these, or we want to keep those completely separate?
We'll certainly be able to speak about the trial the next day after that event.
Okay.
Point of information, it's not the trial, it's just a court appearance.
Yeah, the trial will be years.
Okay. Back to the demonstration, consensus. I see that's both consensus. Okay, so demonstration a week from Sunday. Good.
Afternoon? What time are we doing? Oh.
Or should we do the normal time on Sunday? I think.
What time are our GAs?
3:30.
3:30.
But they're rather small, so I mean, I don't know. We've talked about the timing issue, and we've moved it back and forth, but I just don't know what people all think. If we're hoping for church people, it would be an after lunch, but I know you said Sunday afternoons can be bad for parents, so not just you, but I'm just trying to get information about what you all think would work best.
High noon might be a symbolic time.
Can we get a glove and slap Roger
An advantage to having it at like 2 is that we can invite people to stay for the GA afterwards.
Yeah.
You know, so because we're trying to build a larger decision-making body out of this, right? Sorry to speak out of turn, undermining my point, but.
All right, Bert.
I'm just looking at my schedule on my personal calendar. It says 3 o'clock on Sunday, gay marriage. And I'm wondering, do we have a teacher or something? No, all my gay friends are already married. So I'm not going. don't want to preempt somebody else's teaching.
No, that's a good point though. Does anybody know? Is it on the website? What's happening on the?
Not that far ahead.
Where's Heather?
Oh.
I got the website.
Parading from being out at the court since 9 a.m.
Do you want me to call Heather really quick?
Well, she's looking on the calendar right now.
Awesome.
So, would we like to make an amendment to the proposal that was just consent on, saying that it should be earlier?
Well,
I
the
mean,
time
people who
wasn't.
wanted to go to the other could go.
Wait, is this the 29th, right?
Yeah.
It's a panel at North Carolina Central. Or no. It doesn't give a
Oh,
location.
defining marriage in North Carolina.
Yeah.
Human relations law. What are the implications?
So, but where is it?
But where is it?
If you click on the announcement, sometimes it breaks out into a description.
Orange County Human Relations Commission. What are the implications? Our panelists
Fremont.
are. Well, it's not on the plaza.
It's sounding like it's on the phone.
It's not on the plaza.
It's at the Carver Century Center.
Okay, so that's a conflicting time, but not as.
It's at 3?
So what's scheduled 3 to 5 conflicting with the GA anyway?
Yeah. So let's make it maybe even earlier. Because we want people to get time to get Carver up. Like, how long do we want this demonstration to be?
I would like to say that I like the 2 o'clock time, and then people can stay for GA at 3:30, and I think that should stay in the proposal.
Okay, so amend 2 o'clock. Don't think we need to say this.
It's important that it's after church. We want folks to do the church.
Yeah, definitely. Okay.
2 p.m.?
Yes.
Maria?
Okay. So I want to just reiterate what Nick said. I've been involved with so many movements in this town where eventually the right to protest becomes what the whole protest is about. I don't want that either. I mean, that's kind of yeah. I really want us to stay. I would like to see us stay focused on why we started doing this in the first place, not just our right to protest. And I think it's worth pointing out that the town is trying to make it about our right to protest, to take away from the messages that we are bringing about how power operates in this town and everywhere else.
Yeah.
Yes.
Twinkle is not.
Can we say town manager is wrong?
I guess I just make a voice of opinion on something. You were saying that the town council has allowed us to be demonstrating and camping, and the way I see it is that it's kind of a twisted way to say it because they're allowing us to have our rights. I think the word right is something that you said, but we deserve it. Like why do we have to let a town council allow us to have this? We should have it and not have to wait for approval.
Just as a point of information, Chief Blue acknowledged at his invited speaking event at Peace and Justice Plaza that the only reason they weren't doing anything is because the town was behind them. And I mean, he after he gave his whole public statement, he said that to a smaller group of people. So again, it was acknowledged that if their hands weren't tied, they would have taken whatever action.
By town, you mean the population?
Yeah, the population, not the politicians.
You and I are good friends, and unfortunately be friends with people who disagree with me on some things. We're probably not going to be able to consensus on our relationship to the town government, seeing as how I believe them to be fundamentally illegitimate, and to have no right of influence over my life by any means. We can continue to discuss this, but I don't imagine that as a General Assembly we'll be able to. We should figure out how to work around the nuances that we disagree about.
So I'd like to make a process suggestion that we finish the press release and
Again.
leave. So maybe the way that could happen would be coming up with 5 or 6 key points. I like the language that Bert had about exactly. But like,
We're,
we think this is outrageous. Here are some of the reasons why. We're going to respond in full via a demonstration. So maybe if a note taker or somebody could just sort of like articulate a few of those bullet points that we come up with in our conversation, we can get temperature checks on each one, and then go home.
And I would like to just add too that we sidestep around any mention of our relationship to the town council just for sake of disagreement, and we just focus on why we disagree with what they did.
Or going to do.
Or going to do. Okay. So would note takers like to bring up some of the points that we mentioned?
We're missing most
We're
of
missing
the notes.
the note.
She didn't email them to you?
I can see, but I don't know how she would have done that.
Yeah, no,
Well, we're all still here, so.
Yeah, we could just. And we know what's on here.
We could just reiterate concise points that we think.
Who remembers the
Town
concise
manager
point?
claims arbitrary enforcement of rules. A right to arbitrarily enforce rules.
Okay. Sonia's got some notes.
Just what I have instead. We call for a demonstration in favor of freedom to assemble peaceably. Don't mess with homeless people and hence don't mess with nomadic occupiers. Our elected officials are ceding their power, CEDING, ceding their power to privatization, which is overrunning our society. This is a global issue that Occupy movement has organized to confront. If town council would like to demonstrate they believe in free speech in this community, we invite the town council to side with us and not withstand so. Forum for forwarding these specific issues and connecting them with larger issues, and we will invite other justice to
I feel like that's a good start. We can add to that. I don't know what you guys.
Does anyone object to anything?
Occupy Chapel response to memorandum from Chapel Town Manager Roger Stansel today as follows. We reserve the right of citizens to assemble peacefully to redress their grievances. We are simply reflecting the despair and belief and feelings of thousands of residents of Chapel Hill. The town is not responding to the voice of what is not working. We feel this is retaliation for the events around the 8th of then I left that over.
That wouldn't be good for us.
Yeah, no. Since OCCH has vacated the plaza, OCH will continue to hold General Assembly meetings 3 times a week, and we will not be present. And then the best is yet to come. I love that.
Just sounds a little like a porn shop, though.
Has it been decided when we want the press release to go out?
Well,
I thought we said before Sunday.
this one ASAP.
So, as soon as it's done. So then it should go out tonight or tomorrow for Sunday's paper?
Right, yeah.
Okay, so will we all have a chance to review it, like online later tonight? Can the ad hoc committee put that together so we can...
Isn't that us?
Yeah, we can.
Do you have your computer?
Yeah, we can get that out on email if people are going to be up and responsive tonight.
Yeah, and we're like a bike ride from my house.
Yeah,
we have to. We can like go use the internet there too.
Well, the wireless here is really good.
Huh?
If you want to just do.
When the laptops get rained on, it really sucks.
Nick?
One point that was mentioned before is that he says in the email that he has a good relationship with Occupy Chapel Hill. False. Look up what the specific wording is. But,
I guess
constructive dialogue.
Right.
Yeah.
To correct me, please, if I'm wrong, but to my knowledge, Roger Stansel has never attended an Occupy Chapel Hill GA, never come to any of our events, never had any personal communication with any of the members of Occupy Chapel Hill, of whom I'm aware, except maybe somebody, and certainly not any collective communication. And as far as I can tell, completely out of the blue, just sent an email inventing a constructive relationship when the only relationship I've personally had to him, as in my capacity as an Occupy Chapel Hill member, is protesting his ass. And if that's if that's a constructive relationship, then I apparently have a constructive relationship with Dick Cheney.
Constructive, positive.
So, distilling that into a sentence,
We haven't had a positive relationship with Stanford.
we haven't had a constructive dialogue.
We don't have a relationship.
Yeah,
I'm only going to use
any
this
of
quote.
them,
Well, I actually really like
We don't
Rob.
have any relationship.
Sorry, could I reiterate or have Rob reiterate what he said? That was kind of nice and a little more playful.
Well,
And that perhaps we could help him understand what the word dialogue means.
I don't even remember.
You said it
About like I think what I was saying was I felt it was important that we give the council a chance to do something about it, even though I don't expect them to actually do something about it, and we should word it to them that we hope, I don't know the exact verbiage, but hope that you'll rein his ass in.
But you also just said nicely something like, perhaps because Wikipedia has been down, we're not sure we're on the same page about what
the dialogue about what dialogue is. Right.
I like that. I think a little playfulness isn't a bad idea.
Also, the point on privatization.
Yeah,
I know we had the seating power, but I think as Bill said, having that word in there.
Yeah, and I think
sorry, go ahead.
you had said too that we would like for this to be the emergency GA has decided on this night, has met this night in consents that for this, that we don't agree with this ordinance and this memo. I think and we will.
It's outrageous.
Yeah, respond to it full later. But we want to make sure that this
With
is
the full consensus of the Peace and Justice Project, we'll do it.
Yeah.
I think that a couple of us have to leave here shortly. Not to plunge us into trouble, I would just to use the minimum language. I might take out the word peaceably assemble. Because to some people, me beating a drum might not be peaceable. It just introduces more language that's complicated and that people see differently. So I would just make. We have the right to assemble that.
Yeah.
Not that I'm not in favor of peace.
I think when we do put out the press release, we need to put that letter out with the press release because most people aren't going to know what we're talking about. So we need to put out the press release along with the email.
I guess for the folks who have had more interaction with these state structures, like maybe Harry and Bert, I'm totally down with what Brian was saying too, but I also don't want us to sound naive about how things work. So in some ways when, and again, I don't know if this is going to stay the language that, because Sonia was just reading notes, but about we want the town council to be against Stansel or not with Stansel. I don't want that to sound like we're naive and don't understand actually how that works. Yeah. So maybe that language could either be left out or could be made a little bit more sophisticated. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but.
I guess too, like I don't know that you were saying that was just notes, but the don't mess with homeless people and don't mess with nomadic coffee. Maybe change don't mess with. Yeah, no, that's good.
We aren't in Texas after all.
Yeah. And
Thank God.
Yeah.
We've got somebody there.
But did you need more time, Sonia?
Well,
No, I'll forward this to one of you because I got the notes.
can you just forward it to the listserv? I mean, would anybody be opposed to this going out so that whoever's going to be staying here working on that can just get it and run with it?
Or how about the discussion?
I think that maybe the discussion listserv because there's less extra people on it.
Just one thing to throw in. Since there's a lot of different perspectives on how we relate to town government or how we feel about town government or whatever, what I would like to see as the center of gravity in any concise press release is not what we expect or demand from politicians or town officials or whatever, but what we want and what we are going to do. So to me it seems clear we are going to continue to be at the Peace and Justice Plaza. We are going to continue to have general assemblies and we are going to continue to demonstrate to articulate all of the things that we said here, even when we disagree. And we are not going to let them win by that. So that's my desire that I bequeath to the press releases, and I have lots of trust in those.
Thanks everybody for meeting and for making this happen. It's awesome. Look forward to seeing you all soon.
Have fun at your much cooler party you're going to.
We'll be here it's cold and wet.
Huh?
Well, we've got a time, we've got a date, right? Yeah.
No, we have to stay at Peace and Justice Plaza.
Yeah, talking about this.
We talked about inviting Ellen and Shirley.
Is there an
But we have 3 GAs to like plan it.
Huh?
Is there a working group to bring this together?
Well, ultimately, I figured that we would essentially announce the plans to have the demonstration, and then we could bring this to the full GA on Sunday.
Mhm.
So that it would be no different.